Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here alongside Christian Mosqueda. Back for another episode. 2025, new year. Let's see what we have in store today, Chris.
That's right, Gio. We had to start it off in 2025 again. What a year we had in 2024. I think one of the best years we've had in recent memory. Again, I think we're coming into a glamour era for boxing. Again, the money is pouring in. The fighters are fighting each other. They're fighting the best because the money is there, Gio. So, yeah, man. Again, we just wanted to start 2025 and start off something we like to say our wish list for 25. Whether it's fights, whether it's where do you want the sport to go? What are some things that you would like to see? What are some fighters that you would like to see have a comeback year? Again, it's an interesting year for boxing in that there are many storyboards coming to fruition, and there's a lot to be written.
Yeah, let's go ahead and begin with what we have already in store, Chris. January of 2025. Let's go ahead and pull that schedule up for you guys. Let me see if I can find it here. This is what we have in 2024. We actually have some action tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening, depending where you are. We have from Australia, Jai Opataya against David Nika. Hope I'm saying that correctly. That's for Opataya's IBF Cruiserweight title. January 8th, Australia. All right, very interesting midweek there. We have also, this is more a local fight here in the LA area, Chris. January 17th, if you see the main event there, Omar Trinidad versus Mike Plania. But we have some friends of the show on there. Yana Verduzco, a.k.a. Right Hook Roxy on the undercard. Also, Tayden Beltran on that undercard. So that's going to be a very good card here at the Commerce Casino. January 17. January 24th, Tokyo, Japan. Naoya Inoue against Sam Goodman. This fight was supposed to be at the end of 2024 in December. Was postponed due to a cut during sparring for Goodman, but they're getting on right away. January 24th, Tokyo, Japan. I believe that's a Tuesday as well. January 26th, Saturday, Las Vegas, DAZN. Diego Pacheco headlining against Steven Nelson. This is poised to be a good card as well. Andy Cruz is on the undercard. Ernesto Mercado who I picked as my prospect of the year, is fighting Jose Pedraza, actually. So that should be a very exciting fight. A young fighter against a veteran in Pedraza. Let's see if he can pass that test. And that's essentially what we have for January, Chris.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Joe, there's some good names there, some up and comers. We got some prospects. We have, some possible contenders there, like you said, Ernesto Mercado taking on Jose Pedraza. I think if you had to pick your bet, I think I know who you'd go for, Gio. I think you would pick, the up and comer against Pastor Prime veteran there, but that's a great test for him. Again, you can never count out these veterans. Again, they don't want to be the next journeyman on anybody's record. They want to make you earn it. So yeah, great names that you mentioned there. Right Hook Roxy, fighting on that Commerce card. We have Grant Flores from out here from the Coachella Valley. He just messaged me that he's fighting on this card as well. So a lot of good names from the SoCal region fighting on this card. That's a very good card to go see. You guys are in the area, but yeah, man, I'm excited for some of these names again. The big one that stands out obviously is Naoya Inoue, Gio, and that's one of the topics I wanted to talk today. How are these guys, the names, the big names that carry the sport? How are they going to do? And this is his first test. Again, I don't think there's too many people that you would give to give in a way a test. But Sam Goodman, can push him a little bit. So I got to ask you about that, Gio. What does Inoue have to do to, start making a case for himself for Fight of the Year? I know it's early, but when we count these awards at the end of the year, we try to put the whole body of the year. So what does an Inoue have to do against the Sam Goodman to get it going?
Well, I think get a knockout. I think for some reason Inoue still has a lot of critics. A lot of people don't believe in him. He got dropped against Nettie, in his recent fight. So I'm sure people are going to use that against him. But if you see here, Sam Goodman, undefeated fighter, 19-0, 8 KOs out of Australia. I think he can get a stoppage here, man. And Naoya Inoue is a tough task for anybody. But you would think, especially against a guy who's not known for his punching power, only 8 KOs in 19 fights, you would think that will go for it. And yeah, I don't see anything else other than a KO happening in that fight. And I think is gonna need it. I think obviously, as I said, Goodman, a very good fighter on paper, but not the most known fighter. So if he does anything else other than a KO, I think he'll get some criticism for it.
No, I completely agree. And if Zach Goodman saw Munguia's last fight, that's all the motivation that he needs. Again, we called it one of the biggest upsets in the last 10 years. Munguia losing to an unknown fighter with very little to no punching power. So you just said it, Sam Goodman, not known for punching power. I don't think anybody outside of that camp thinks that he can win this fight against. He's going up against one of the very best top 2, top 3 pound for pound rates in the sport right now against Naoya Inoue. So that's a tough ask, a tough assignment. Like you said, Gio, a lot of people that are, that saw Inoue's last fight, they see him get dropped. They're not giving him the credit that he deserves. He's been doing amazing things in the sport, jumping up weight divisions time after time and winning in convincing fashion. And again, I know I compared him to another great, a couple years ago, but he's making me look good right now with what he's doing, and I expect, just like you, Gio, for him to get the knockout. What other names in 2024 that are up there with Inoue do you see having a banner 2025 year?
Well, first, let's go to Inoue, how he's coming into this fight, Chris. 28-0, 25 KOs. He's 31 years old. Look at all those TKOs in a row. Tell me to stop when you see a W by D. Look at that. It's been a while right here. Nonito Donaire, 2019. Everybody else, he has stopped. So, yeah, I don't see Goodman, stopping that KO streak. But, we'll have to wait and see what Usyk does, if he's going to get it on with Triple D. Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Obviously, that's always a name who people are going to look out for. Top pound for pound name. We know Arthur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol are going to get it on again, in February. So that's a good sign. Obviously, all eyes on Canelo anytime he makes an announcement. But I think it's time for for the Bams of the world to take over, Chris, in my opinion. You know, with Usyk getting up there in age, with Canelo getting up there in age. You know, a lot of those guys on the top P4P list, guys like Better BF Bevel getting up there in age. So I think this 2025 is poised for a guy like Bam to really solidify his name and become that household name, become a star, become possibly number one pound for pound.
No, Jay, I completely agree. And before we move on to Bam, let me just ask real quick: what percent of a chance do you give Stan Goodman? Is it 10%? Is it 15%? Is it lower than that? Where are you at with that?
My man Sam, I'm gonna be respectful. I'm gonna be respectful. I'm gonna give him a solid 5%.
Damn, okay.
Respectfully. Look, he's fought essentially all his fights in Australia. I just don't think anything he has done has gotten him ready for a guy like Inoue. You know, if you look at his resume here, best name probably TJ Doheny. That was 2023. Doheny past his prime. So, yeah, I think tall order, tough task. Respectfully, Sam, 5%.
If Sam Goodman were to, make the monumental upset and defeat Inoue in a way, would that be bigger than the Munguia defeat? Would that be a bigger upset than that fight?
Man, that's a great question. Obviously, Noah is a much better fighter than Munguia.
Mhm.
Goodman's probably a much better fighter than Saras as well.
Mhm.
Man, I'm gonna just go ahead and say yes, because Inoue is regarded as top 1, top 2, maybe top 3 pound for pound. Is in Tokyo, his hometown. He's not fighting a power puncher, just like Munguia wasn't. But yeah, man, that's tough. But I think it might be slightly even a bigger upset than the Saras versus Munguia. But let's not forget, Saras probably had less than 1% of a chance to win, Chris, if you were to ask any boxing fan. So, yeah, we can't write anybody off. And yeah, we'll have to drop our official predictions soon. It's not time yet, but I think we have a good idea who's going to win. But yeah, that's why I said respectfully 5%. I won't say 1, or I won't say 0.
I was gonna say, Joe, before the Saras fight, 5% to Goodman. After that fight, I'll give him an extra 2%, man. He's gonna go with that guy can do it. I can do it too. And I'm pretty sure, like I said before, him and his camp are probably the only ones. And if his camp was honest, I bet you half of them would be like, we don't even believe it. Like, but we can't tell him that. But 7%, just being respectful. Anything can happen in boxing, but against one of the very best with the track record that you just showed everybody there, I don't see it happening again. This is one of the greatest active fighters in the sport right now. And if there's any fight that you shouldn't miss, it's the Naoya Inouye's of the world. It's the Virgil Ortiz of the world. So if we got to stay up to watch that one, I'm gonna try to get all my Inoue in this year, Gio.
100%. And look, let's go ahead and skip to February, because February is supposed to be a very good year for boxing. I know we touched on it in previous podcasts, but starting off February 1st, Las Vegas pay-per-view. David Benavides against David Morrell. Brandon Figueroa versus Stephen Fulton. Isaac Cruz against Angel Fierro. Jesus Alejandro Ramos versus Jason Rosario. Solid card there. Solid card, Chris. February 1st. Clarissa Shields is fighting in Flint, Michigan. The day after on the zone, Derek Chisora against Otto Wallin. February 8th, Manchester, England. The battle of the veteran heavyweights. I like this announcement here. Dennis Berinchyk versus Keyshawn Davis, February 14th, New York, ESPN Plus. I think it might be a little too soon for Keyshawn Davis, but we'll see. Berinchyk, who defeated Emmanuel Navarrete when Emmanuel Navarrete tried to challenge for that 135-pound belt. That fight was for the vacant belt that Berinchyk now has. Xander Zayas also on that undercard. Abdullah Mason on that undercard. Nico Ali Walsh on that undercard. So yeah, that's a Friday, February 14th.
Yeah, I'm guessing right now that fight might split you and me, Gio. I feel like we might go different ways when we get closer to that
Yeah.
fight and make our picks. Obviously, we'll see when we get closer. I'll be looking at how these guys are getting ready. Baranchik obviously not very. He doesn't put a whole lot on social media. It's gonna be a little bit hard to find what he's doing. Keyshawn Davis a little bit more outspoken, a little bit more brash. But yeah, that's gonna be a hell of a fight. Very competitive. It can go either way, in my opinion, right now. But yeah, you mentioned the previous fights again with the Andy Cruz card and those names there. Gio, when
Yeah.
you look at those names, and as I was going through my weight classes, getting ready for the podcast, that card there has a lot of sexy names, Gio. When I say that, I'm talking about the weight divisions, that are popping right now. When I think of that, I think of the junior bantamweights, the 140s. I think of the 154s. We've already talked about the middleweight division. It's a little sleepy right now. Not the glamour time right now for the middleweights. And then 168, another popping division. So that card alone, Gio, with all the names you just mentioned, has very attractive names, good competitive fights. I know, you've been one of the harsher critics of Benavides. Warranted points, others not so warranted. But again, that's going to be a heck of a fight for February. And then you mentioned, man, the what I'm calling early on the event of the year, if nothing happens, thereafter. But man, what a February we have, Gio. And again, uh, that just speaks to the volume of Turkey, of what kind of fight cards he's trying to put together. But yeah, man, I'm excited for February. Like you said, January starting a little bit, it's the appetizer, but February seems to be the cake.
Yeah, and we weren't even done with February. That was halfway through the month, February 14th. February 15th, Saturday, Manchester, England, Jack Catterall, Arnold Barboza Jr. Title eliminator. You can watch that on the zone. That's a fight right there, man.
Yeah, that one puts our guy against a good test, Gio, and he's been doing good. He's been passing every test. He hasn't been convincing, the fight fan in every single fight, but he's been doing what he needs to do to get that W. Catterall's a good test, Gio. We've seen Catterall come up on top in on a majority of his fights, you know, and this is gonna be a good test for Arnold. Obviously, we know, we have that bias with our guy. As we get closer, we're gonna hear less and less about him. He tends to lock in. He's given us interviews before.
Yep.
Um, we've had him since day one. We know his entire story. Having those doors closed. Signing with Bob but not getting those opportunities, getting kind of blackballed for a second there. Now he's with De La Hoya. Those doors are opening once again. So yeah, that's a good fight, Gio.
Yeah, and I saw videos of him, running in the snow. I believe he's back in Big Bear, so he's putting in that work already, getting ready for that February 15th card, the mega card, February 22nd, Riyadh season, the zone pay-per-view. Turkey said he wants to keep the prices down for those pay-per-views. We'll see what they price this one at, man, because this is a huge card right here. Arthur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, undisputed, the rematch. What else do we have here? Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. Carlos Adames versus Hamza Shiraz. Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Israel Madrimov. Joshua Boatsi against Callum Smith. Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield. Z Lei Zong against Ajit Kabayel. Yeah, that's right. These names are all on the same card, Chris.
Yeah, and again, that pins my boy down Dubois, who I've been high on all 2024 against a very, very tough Joseph Parker, who's also had, a great awakening, in my opinion, that last year, and I have great wins for him. So that's a tough card, Gio. Again, for the most part, if Dan Dubois is opposite any guy not named Usyk, I tend to favor. This one I'm gonna have to think about by the time we roll around and make our picks. Joseph Parker is no joke. Still very young fighter.
Yeah, surprisingly, but yeah, man, that's man, that card is different. And then we got some action February 24th as well. Junto Nakatani David Cuellar. They also just recently announced this one as well. It's February 24th. So very good month in February. And then you guys see there Gervonta Davis against Lamont Roach. Will we see Gervonta fight, Chris? He's talking a lot. He's talking about betrayals. He's talking about this fight's going to be canceled. He's talking about, man, I'm going to retire. What's going on with that guy?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Gervonta. Just fight, my guy. I hear that they have more Mexayo on the back burner as a backup, but you just got to fight, man. Again, distractions, all that unnecessary talk, on social media, that's got to stop.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, but yeah, I know he's making more noise outside the ring than in it. But yeah, let's see what other. Just scrolling down, Teofimo Lopez versus Subriel Matias. That's not confirmed yet. ESPN is putting it on their website, so that's a good sign. But let's see if they confirm that one. That would be a great fight, comeback fight, you could say, for Subriel Matias. No, well, he won recently, but it was in a high-profile fight after that Liam Paro defeat in Puerto Rico. That would be a good fight. I think Teofimo definitely earns respect for that one. I'm sure a lot of people will criticize him for only fighting Subriel Matias after he had lost, after he looked human against Liam Paro.
Yeah, and Teofimo Gio, he's going to be my guy that needs to come back this year. Again, we saw he had one of the best ascends in boxing in recent memory, entertaining inside the ring, outside the ring, great action fighter. Distractions have kept him from being a bigger star than he should be at this time, in my opinion. But if this is true and he's fighting a guy like Subriel Matias, it should be a great fight, and it should cement whichever guy wins, just higher up that in their stock. But great fight. Again, Teofimo Lopez needs a comeback year this year because his stock cannot take a major hit in 2025.
Yeah, and he's with the Canelo team now. He's with Eddie Reynoso, so we'll see what he can show, in this 2025. And then yeah, I think that's pretty much it that has been announced, Chris.
Yeah, again, we have some good names coming up. I feel obviously as the weeks and months pass, we're gonna get these next calendar months filled out, more names, bigger stars. I gotta ask you, Gio, one of the guys that took a few of our awards this year was a boxer by the name of Ryan Garcia. He is slated to return on April 20th. His suspension does end on that day. What are your thoughts on Ryan Garcia coming back? Do you want to see him come back? What do you expect from him? Just give me your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I think boxing needs him. I think we've kind of forgot a little bit about him as of the last few months. I really didn't really care for those exhibitions or whatever, but I think Ryan Garcia back in boxing, I think it's good. It's good news. It's not bad for the sport. If he indeed is guilty of doing what they accused him of doing, I guess he's paid his dues after that year. So, yeah, I think it's good news, and any of his upcoming fights, especially after that Devin Haney win, I think are going to be big fights, regardless of who he fights. He already garners a lot of attention, but now showing that he can beat an elite boxer, I think people are going to start taking him a little more seriously. Obviously, there are some people who are going to be on the other side of that coin and say, well, it wasn't a real win. On paper is a no contest. On paper he cheated. So they're not going to give him the credit, but I think people are going to tune in regardless, whether they love him or hate him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Again, not condoning what he did. Shouldn't do that. He got suspended, like you said, did his time. He's continuing to do his time until April 20th. Having said that, Gio, I think he does bring a lot of attention to the sport. He's entertaining inside and outside of the sport. He puts the kind of action that fans want to see, puts people in seats that normally don't follow the sport. And that's always a good thing, in my opinion. Having said that, it was a couple of years ago, right, Gio, where people were asking themselves the question, is Ryan even a fighter or is he a YouTube personality? There was that narrative that, he's good, but just not good enough. He's not on the level of the Devin Haney's or, the like. I think he shed that narrative, this year completely. It started with the Luke Campbell win, with people getting okay, he's good, but Luke Campbell was not top 10. And after what he did this year, obviously you get the good with the bad, Gio. But what he did this year to the Devin Haney's, and even just stepping in with the Tank Davises, and taking the fight to them on Tank Davis's terms, I think people have shred that narrative. What are your thoughts of that? And do you agree? Yes or no?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you feel like Ryan Garcia has shed the narrative that he's just a YouTube fighter and he's actually a fighter?
Yeah, I think 100%. As I said, some people are not going to give him credit for it, but um, he still did what he did, Chris. We can't erase the YouTube footage. We can't erase the fight. He did what he did. He defeated Devin Haney easily, I must add, easily dropped him several times in this fight. So yeah, I think, now fighting Devin Haney, fighting Gervonta Davis, I think even Luke Campbell. I think, yeah, he's past that narrative, and now he's got to get some quote unquote real wins, under his belt. He's 24-1, 20 KOs. Doesn't say his age on here, but he's not old at all. If someone can look up his age for us. So yeah, I think people are past that narrative, but I think we still have to wait and see what he does next. I didn't really think that those exhibition bouts that he was planning on doing helped his case, but once he gets back to the real thing, I think people can drop that narrative, and I do think he can beat a lot of those guys, at 140. And they're gonna be big fights. So I don't know. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know if you ever considered him a YouTuber or Instagram fighter. I never really did. I think he's put in his work, in the amateurs growing up. If you ask any of the quote unquote real fighters, right, they'll tell you that, oh, I fought Ryan in the amateurs. This guy's been doing it for a long time. So yeah, I never really understood the narrative, but yeah, I think for now, I think people are past it.
Yeah, for me, I never thought that he was just a YouTube, sensation. I always knew he was a fighter. I just didn't know how good he could be. I think for me, it was more, can he compete with the elite? Can he compete with the top five? And again, we've seen those highlight reels of his knockdowns with sensational speed, accuracy, power. But I think for me, it's like, can he do that to the elite? Can he do that to the aforementioned names? And that's the question that I wanted answered. And for a while, like, I don't think he can. And then after what he did to Devin Haney, what he showed me in glimpses to Tank Davis, even though he was drained out, like, okay, no, this kid may not have the skills or the technique of the elite, but he's got that power that can change any fight. And seeing that Devin Haney fight, I'm like, guys can have more skills, but that speed and that power is always there. He could lose rounds, and he lands out at one punch. These guys are not going to recover as quickly as they would with lesser punchers. So I think for me, 2024 has taught me that Ryan Garcia is a fighter that can, as long as he's focused, as long as he's hungry, as long as he's not distracted, even if he is, that power can change any fight. So to me, that kind of fighter, that kind of style is always going to be intriguing. And if you entertain us before the fight, during the fight, man, you're money.
All right, yeah, that's Ryan Garcia. Chris, let's drop random predictions for 2025. You can go first.
My prediction for 2025. Do you want to stay on the 140s or any division?
Any division.
Any division.
All right, I could drop one. Turkey's going to give us a better fight card than that February 22nd card.
Oh, that's a lot, dude.
He's gonna do it. In Turkey, we trust. He's gonna give us a better fight card at some point in 2025, better than the February 22nd card.
That is a bold statement, man. I'd like to rewind this, in December and see if we did and see if it comes to fruition. Bold statement, but I'm here for it. I'm going to say, this is a bold statement too. I'm gonna say Ryan Garcia fights at least one recognizable name in 2025 and repeats the Devin Haney dosage. So I don't know if it's gonna be a Teofimo. I don't know if he can get Gervonta back in the ring, but I can see Ryan Garcia, taking a lesser fight to come back, and then he crushes it in 2025 again. I think that formula is there, and I think he's there to shock. And like you said, there's going to be a lot of fans that don't believe in him, that think that he cheated, and he's going to shock once again. So I'm going to say that Ryan Garcia is going to have a big win in 2025 that's going to elevate him to superstar status.
All right, I'm not mad at that. Rapid fire though, Chris. All right, my next one is: we will only see Gervonta Davis one time this year.
Yes,
One fight.
yes. One fight. I'd be shocked if he fights twice, and if he does, then cool. Make me look. I mean, he doesn't look bad, but yeah, with everything that's going on, yes. All right, me to you. Ready?
Go for it. That's all. You don't have any more. That's it.
Oh no.
Oh man, I was having fun with this, man.
All right, all right.
What's up?
I think we see the end of Anthony Joshua this year, Gio. I think we see the end of Anthony Joshua this year. I think he's damaged goods. He's such a star that you can still put him in with any fight, but I'm gonna predict that he's damaged goods and he gets knocked out again in 2025.
I can see that happening. I don't think he'll be done though. There's too much money there, man. I think there's too much money for him to be done. However, I do think we see Joshua Fury in 2025. And I do think that it's a make or break year for both of them. I think whoever loses, I think they can still make their millions. They can still put people in stadiums. But I think if whoever loses, they're done being title contenders, and they're just gonna collect their last few paychecks in 2026 and live happily ever after. But I do think we get Fury Joshua Wembley Stadium in 2025.
Nice. Love to see that. I see that happening. I predict that Raymond Murataya is gonna have a banner year. It's gonna be his coming out party this year. I think the skills and the focus and the non distractions that we say other fighters have, this kid does not have none of that, in my opinion. And I think people underestimate him and overlook him. And Raymond Murataya is gonna have a crazy, amazing year this year, in my opinion.
All right, since we're talking about friends of the show, I think Right Hook Roxy wins Female Prospect of the Year in 2025.
I can see that happening. That one's good. That one's good. Okay, since we're talking friends of the show, I'm gonna say Arnold Barbosa Jr. becomes a world champion full fledged this year. I'm gonna say that.
I like that one. I like it. I was gonna say, when you mentioned Raymond, I thought you were gonna say he's gonna become a champion this year.
Possible.
I think he's there. I just don't think those guys want to get in the ring with him, man. That's gonna be the only tough part.
All right. What else you got, Joe? What are the predictions you got this year?
All right. Oh, let me just say a wild one, Chris.
Okay.
I'll just say I'll throw a wild one out there. Usyk will lose in 2025.
Okay. That's possible. Again, I don't like he's on such a streak, but he could only climb so many mountains. I don't see it with who. I can't see anybody in and around, beating him. But I mean, again, like I said, you can only climb so many mountains. Okay, bold prediction, Gio. Here we go. You ready?
Let's go.
Canelo works with Turkey this year. That's yeah.
I think that's gonna be very, very difficult, but I can see it happening. I will lean more toward a yes than a no.
I mean, yeah, that one's a 50-50 bold statement, but I think the money's just too great. The money's too great, and 365 days, payday. We'll see. We'll see what
All
happens.
right,
But
I got another
that
one.
was, there we go.
David Benavides will lose in 2025.
Okay. Does he lose to Morel though?
Who knows? That's a good question. I think there's a possibility, but I think he loses in 2025. He's either supposed to fight. If he wins, he's supposed to fight the winner, supposedly a better be a Bivol. And if he gets a Canelo fight, I think he loses to all those three names.
That's crazy. We've seen guys that you have your zero at the beginning of 2024, and then 2025 December comes around, and you have that two at the end of that. So the Mungias come to mind, the Tim Zoos come to mind.
Fury,
Man,
Tyson Fury,
3 for 3.
Man,
yeah, that's okay. Whew. All right, let's see. What's another good prediction?
I'll say one. Kind of a wild one too. We will not see Terrence Crawford fight in 2025.
He's gotta fight.
I mean, Turkey's gonna be mad. But Crawford
gonna pull out a Benjamin fight.
Crawford doesn't seem to be wanting to fight anyone except Canelo. And Canelo is not enticing enough fighting a guy who's that much smaller. So I don't know. But Turkey loves Crawford, so he might get him an easy-ish fight. We'll see.
So there you go.
I don't think he gets a big fight.
I was gonna say he's gonna have to give Canelo the biggest payday, and then they're gonna end up working together. And there you go. You get my prediction right.
Last one for me. Last one. Virgil Ortiz Jr. will become champion at 154.
I was thinking that, but knowing the other guys at 154 that have belts, Gio, it's possible if he avoids the one that I think that you know what I'm talking about. Because again, as I was making my list, Gio, the 154-pound division is a very sexy division in my opinion. When I look at the names, man, of that junior middleweight, man, you got Crawford, Majamov, Mutasaliev. If he stays away from Mutasaliev, then I say you're right.
Ooh.
Obviously Fundora's got a belt. So again, there's really good names there for Ortiz Jr. There's Wojcik, again, the rematch, if they make it happen. Tim Tszyu needs a big year this year, man. Tim Tszyu needs a big year. Jesus Ramos, who's fighting. Brian Mendoza is still in the mix. Even our boy Brandon Cannon Adams, who can upset any of these guys on a perfect night. It's a great division, but hey, I'm not mad at it. Yeah, if there's any time that he needs to be a champion, I think he knows 2025 cannot pass him by. He should have been champion, in my opinion, 2 years ago, but stuff happens in life, and those things that don't happen. But I think for him, he knows that 2025 he has to be a champion.
All right.
Especially when Bam is a champion, Gio, right?
All right.
So
who do you think makes a comeback in 2025? You mentioned Tim Tszyu.
Yeah.
Who else makes a comeback in 2025? I have one. Ryan Garcia. Okay, literally, he's making a comeback. I think Venado Lopez for me. I think that division is still wide open. I think he can get it back. It's gonna be tough after what happened to him, but Venado Lopez would be my pick. I hope Tim Tszyu comes back too. Exciting fighter.
Yeah, no, that was tough. I'm gonna put Teofimo Lopez. I don't know. He hasn't had that wild loss since the one with Cambosos, but he's been kind of quiet. So I'm gonna say he's gonna have a big year 2025 as long as he stays focused. I heard he said that he's not having sex, so I don't know if that's completely true, but at least he's locking in. At least he's trying to make us believe he's locking in.
I heard that too.
A good name. I don't know if he's retired or not officially, Gio, but I think Lomachenko is gonna have a good comeback if he's not officially retired. I don't know if you have heard anything, but Lomachenko needs to have a comeback, in my opinion.
Yeah, that would be dope. That would be dope. A last run for him. But this is Teofimo right here. Look, 21-1. 13 knockouts. He's only 27 years old. He's now fighting with the Canelo team. He's fought Steve Claggett, Jermaine Ortiz, Josh Taylor, Sandor Martin, Pedro Campa, all these guys since that Cambosos loss in 2021. So, yeah, he's. I think he's man. He's due for a big year. He's due for a big year. I know there's been some back and forth between him, Top Rank, the contracts and stuff like that. I think all that too is a distraction. I know he was saying during an interview that he's never even taken a million home, Chris. Out of all his fights, he's never taken a million. He hasn't touched a million. So I think he's long overdue for some big fights and some big paydays.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Tyson Fury's gonna have a good year, Gio. I think he's fought the biggest assignment technique wise that he'll ever face. I don't think anybody else will have the same technique or will as an Usyk. So I think Tyson Fury, wherever he fights, he's gonna bounce back, in my opinion.
I can see that 100%. All right. Anything else you got, Chris, before we get out of here? As we mentioned during the top of the show, we're going to keep it relatively short for the first podcast of 2025. We just want to kind of to preview what we're going to have for this year. Last year, it was huge. It was a big year. We graded it at about an A, solid A minus. So, if 2025 can build on that momentum, we're going to have a great year. And as we said, February 22 is that mega card. We got Benavides Morel, and I'm sure we're going to get a ton of announcements soon. I saw a video soon where Canelo was saying, he's not talking boxing yet. Later in the month, he will. So I'm sure we'll get some announcements at the end of January and in February and so on and so forth. So, yeah, excited for that. And we'll see how the year shapes up. We know Turkey's always working. He's always up to no good, always plotting. So we'll see what he can come up with for the first quarter of the year.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Final ask, man. Final ask. Which pound for pound great that's in the top 5? Which one loses their spot in the top 5, in your opinion? If anybody. Or tell me the ones that in your opinion, doesn't lose their spot. Who's the one that no, this guy doesn't drop, this guy doesn't drop? Tell me by elimination.
Inoue, he's going to stay undefeated.
Okay.
I don't see Canelo losing. Usyk, even though I mentioned that he might lose this year, I think he remains up there.
Okay.
And then Beterbiev can drop out if he loses to Bivol, so that's a possibility. Bam, I think untouchable. Nobody's beating him. I think if anything, maybe Usyk and Beterbiev. And a lot of it has to do with their age, I think. They're getting up there, man. They're getting up there. They're relatively young. They don't have many fights in their career. But you never know. If a younger guy can come take them out, Beterbiev has that tough fight against Bivol, the rematch. Usyk has, the younger guys after him right now. Triple D, Bacoli was out there calling Anthony Joshua. Those are scary dudes, man. Heavyweight is something else.
Yeah. No, I agree with your reasoning, Gio. I don't think Inoue drops. He's too good, and it would take a monumental upset for him to get dropped out of the 5. It would have to be something outrageous. So for me, Inoue stays. Bam stays. He's just too talented, too good, too young. I don't see that happening either. I agree with you. I don't see Usyk dropping unless somehow they find a Bacoli to fight him and completely annihilate him where where you have to knock him out of the fight. But I don't see that happening either. I agree with Canelo unless a Benavides catches him as Father Time slows Canelo down, but I don't see that happening. So I know you don't have this guy in your top five, Gio, but I do, and I'm gonna say that he's the one that drops out of the top five, and I'm gonna say it's Terrence Crawford. I think you know Turkey finds a way to make the Canelo fight happen for him. I think Canelo shows that there's weight classes for a reason. And I think Canelo knocks Terrence Crawford out of the pound for pound rankings. Because yeah, man, again, that's the only way I see somebody getting knocked out of the top five, and it has to be Terrence Crawford, unfortunately.
AKA Kendrick Lamar. Made a great album, by the way, last year. So shout out to him. Yeah, anything else, Chris? We're about 45 minutes in. And
No, Gio, again, that's it. We wanted to do a little first of the year, 2025 preview, the boxing schedule, touch on some of the big fights that are happening. Give us our wish list for 2025. Yeah, Gio. Final question: any fight that if you had to make, between any fighter, any weight division, in and around, which one would it have to be before we get out of here?
man, I think I would hate to see it because I like all three of them, but and man, I think it'd be some Dragon Ball Z stuff, man. Bam against Nakatani
Okay.
or against Inoue. And I know obviously Inoue is a little higher in weight classes than both of those guys, but I think all three of them, however you want to match them up, I think that would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to see we talked about this before. I'd like to see a Lomachenko against a guy like Raymond Murataya.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. I like those picks. I'll give you three picks. Number one, I would like to see, and this is maybe for the mainstream fan, for the casual. I would like to see Canelo Alvarez versus Benavides. I think that's a great fight for the casual. I think that's a great fight that will get the boxing fan, interested. Some people, love Canelo. Some people hate him. Some people love Benavides. Some people hate him. So I think that's one of my picks, one of my three. Number two, and this one is more for fight of the year honors. I would love to see Ortiz versus Tazaliev, the man that defeated Hindu. I think that's a crazy fight. One of the strongest 154 pounders that has fight of the year written all over it. Again, I don't think it would be. I don't think it goes the distance. Scary fight for both men, in my opinion, but definitely fight of the year honors, in my opinion. And number three, I know this one's a long shot, but if they find a catch weight or if Beterbiev is able to go up, I would love to see a Beterbiev versus Usyk at heavyweight or at cruiserweight, whatever division. They can both meet in the middle. So I think that's a fight that would pin two greats. I think Beterbiev at this age, this would be the best time to make it. They're both in and around the same age, but I think this is the best time to make it. Maybe later in the year, but those are my three picks, Joe.
Yeah, maybe Bridger weight, Chris, if that's still a real division, but that would be insane. Turkey, make it happen. You work with both of those guys already. Let me add, this fight once upon a time seemed like it could have been a thing, and then it kind of seemed like the fight wasn't going to happen anymore, but now I guess they're kind of both in the same division. I don't know. Boots seems a little confused. But I think Boots versus Ortiz can really happen maybe at the end of this year. And I think that's a great even matchup because I feel like both men have a lot to prove. They both have those O's, but haven't necessarily fought the best competition. So I think that's the fight that can really happen.
I like that. And final one, and this is for our UK mates, man. Fury versus Joshua.
Yes, sir.
That's a fight that ends now. That one's for the boxing fan. That one's for the casuals. That one's for everybody. And right now, best time to make it, in my opinion. I think both guys would come in on the equal footing. All of Wembley would be sold out. Everybody would tune in my opinion. Even guys out here in the States would tune in for that fight. So I think that was the best time, man. And again, I would watch the pressers. I would watch the build up, man. With the promos they're doing nowadays, man, that would be exciting and amazing, in my opinion. I think it has to happen 2025.
Yeah, and that's a must-watch fight. You know, I don't think anybody would want to miss it, and I'm gonna go even as far as to say that's their version of Mayweather Pacquiao. Right? I
Yeah.
think it would break all types of numbers, especially in Europe. And at the end of the day, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna remember what their records were. I don't remember what Mayweather's record was when he fought Pacquiao. I don't remember what Pacquiao's record was when he fought Mayweather. It's just one of those fights that you want to see. So I do think it happens too.
And again, we'll rewind this at the end of 2025 and see which ones we got right, which ones we got really wrong, and which ones were close. And hopefully, we look smart at the end of the year, Joe.
Hopefully. All right. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, mates. Thank you, blokes, for tuning in. First show of 2025. You hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Follow us against the ropes, against DA ropes, Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, all that stuff. You guys can find us almost anywhere. And yeah, that's it for me, Chris.
Again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to watch this now or watch it on delayed, thank you guys for tuning in and just supporting the channel. Again, we can't wait for 2025. It's going to be an amazing, amazing year. Let's go.
In Turkey, we trust. Let's go, mates.
Vámonos. Payday.
Payday. Everybody's after that payday, that turkey payday.
Payday. Vamos, Canelo. We need more gas stations. Go.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco Gallo AtR. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Huge shout out to Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time out y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.